Hello everyone. In this video I'm going to talk a little bit about how to deal with a bad landlord. At some point we've all had that one landlord that, we swear we'll never rent from again. But bad landlords can be an incredible source of stress and hassle. Responding with anger can increase an already tense conflict, preventing any sort of negotiation. Some landlords like to take advantage of a passive tenant, leading to monetary losses that can be difficult or time-consuming to recover. Fortunately, there are many consumer groups and nonprofit organizations available to give tenants information, advice, and legal assistance. Before resorting to a courtroom, however, tenants may be able to accomplish a lot with a small amount of information and a large amount of patience. Step 1. Know your rights and responsibilities. The biggest mistake that a tenant makes when renting or attempting to leave a lease is to not research their state and local laws. These laws can easily be found on the web. Visit the Landlord Association website that you can just Google. They have local agencies that can provide you with more information. Contact your local landlord-tenant court or county court clerk and ask for pamphlets or contact information for local consumer groups. Step 2. Document everything. Regardless of whether a landlord seems to be a saint or a straight-up demon, avoid making verbal agreements. Save copies of your lease and all correspondences so that you may use it to support a claim should one arise. Be aware of your tone in this correspondence. A polite letter will not only help you negotiate the process, but it will improve your image should a complaint eventually reach an arbitrator or a courtroom. Step 3. Threaten with a smile. If your landlord is violating state or local ordinances such as failing to make repairs or to notify you of a home inspection, be sure to enforce your rights. A polite but strongly worded letter indicating the action you want taken will enforce your documentation and may resolve any problems outright. When dealing with particularly poor landlords, be sure to cite the legal grounds for your demands. A landlord's primary interest is to make a profit, and the threat of a lawsuit or investigation by a housing authority is a compelling reason to perform. Step 4. File a lawsuit. Suing your landlord should usually be a last resort action. However, if the need arises, you should not hesitate. Contact your county court clerk to briefly describe your problem and identify the proper venue for filing a lawsuit. Your state may also require arbitration or mediation before allowing the lawsuit to be heard. Bring witnesses or other tenants to the trial if they will strengthen your case. Present an organized case with all of your documentation. Do not stray off topic or let your anger and frustration control your actions in court. Proper etiquette will strengthen your image in court and help you obtain a favorable settlement. Now, how to file a complaint against a landlord. The process of filing a complaint against a negligent landlord may be as simple as writing a letter or as unpleasant as seeking redress against discriminatory housing practices. As a renter, you have the right to a safe and worry-free environment. Tenants can negotiate a problem with the apartment manager or landlord or file a complaint with the Rental Protection Agency, which has offices in all 50 states and can give you legal counsel. Check the code enforcement laws in your area or with the Fair Housing if the landlord has denied access to rent based on discrimination. The Department of Housing and urban development can help if this is the case. Report disputes with your landlord about security deposit, unlawful entry on the part of the landlord, eviction notices, management problems, repair problems, issues with your neighbors, code violations, unfair lease terms, and other issues to the appropriate local or state agency. This varies from state to state, but in general, check with the county courthouse to locate the office in charge of code enforcement. In some states, complaints can go to the state attorney general's office, Department of Consumer Affairs, or another agency within your local government. Put your complaint in writing. Put it in writing. List the problems that need to be fixed and send the letter by certified mail to ensure that you have proof your landlord received the notice. The repairs should be completed within 14 days. You may wish to notify your landlord that if the repairs have not been completed within that time frame, you will break the lease and move out at the end of 30 days. Another option is to pay for the repairs yourself and then deduct the amount from your rent check. Make sure you keep the receipt for the repairs and only send a copy with your rent check. Report violations to the city authority. Dial 311 to report landlord violations to the city authority for code enforcement. Now, that 311 may actually be like 211, or each state has their own, so you may want to check with that. A complaint filed with a maintenance problem provides a record, and the landlord has not done what he or she is required to do by law, which is to provide you with a safe and habitable housing. Use this record if your landlord takes you to court or you decide to file a claim with small claims court. Have a pen or pencil and paper ready to take down the complaint or tracking number to check the status of the claim and determine whether the investigator has been to your apartment. Contact the Department of Housing and Urban Development. Contact the Department of Housing and Urban Development in your area if you feel that you have been a target of discrimination. According to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development website, the landlord may not deny you the right to rent based on your race, color, national origin, religion, sex, family status, including children under the age of 18 living with parents or legal guardians, pregnant women, and people seeking custody of children under the age of 18, as well as handicapped or disabled persons. Know the terms of your lease. Know the terms of your lease. The landlord has a right to evict a tenant after the term or the lease or the tenant ends behind in rent or has breached a clause of the lease, such as having pets when the lease stipulated no pets allowed. The landlord must personally deliver the eviction notice stating the reason the landlord wishes the tenant to leave and the date of the eviction. Generally, the landlord is required to give 30 days notice if the lease is month to month, 90 days if it is a year-long lease, but only 15 days if the rent is overdue. There may be legitimate reasons for being evicted that give you no legal recourse. But I will say, on the no pets policy, usually a doctor's note, even in a no pet house, they can't really do anything with the doctor's note. So that is a way to kind of keep a pet. So on this next section, it's how to sue an apartment complex. When a serious conflict arises between an apartment resident and a landlord or management company, a lawsuit may be the only way to enforce a tenant's right. Successfully suing an apartment complex requires knowledge of landlord-tenant laws and proof of a violation. You also must determine what you would like the court to do, such as award you a sum of money or force the landlord to otherwise fix the violation. Drafting the complaint, gathering your evidence, and appearing in court are all part of what can become of an elaborate process. Make sure that you have the grounds for a lawsuit. Some of the most common landlord violations include failing to provide a safe and habitable apartment or complex, breaking terms of the apartment lease, entering the apartment without the required notice, failing to return a security deposit, unlawful eviction, or discrimination. Drafting the complaint. You must draft a complaint, sometimes called a petition. A complaint initiates the lawsuit and must be formatted in a way that conforms to local court rules. For example, list facts relevant to your claim and the law that you believe has been broken in numbered paragraphs. You file this document with the civil court and the county where the rental property is located. You may be able to file a small claims court depending on the amount you sue for. Small claims court limits ranges from $1,500 to $25,000 depending on the state. Small claims courts may be a little easier to navigate on your own if you choose not to hire an attorney. Service of process. After you draft and file the complaint, you must ensure that a copy of this paperwork is personally delivered to your landlord. In many states, either a sheriff or professional process server can serve the paperwork. Determining who to serve the papers on can be a bit confusing if the landlord is not a person who owns the property. Although state rules vary, typically, if the apartment complex has a management company that oversees the operation of the rental units, those employed to run the business are qualified to accept the paperwork. The next steps is that the court may hold pre-trial meetings, and you might have to attend mediation to try to settle the case to avoid a trial. If this fails, the matter proceeds to a stage called discovery, in which you and the landlord exchange the information and the evidence you both intend to present at trial. Once discovery is complete, and if you still haven't reached a settlement, you go to trial. During the trial, you present witnesses and other evidence that support your position. You can also ask questions of any witnesses that your landlord presents. Once the trial is complete, the judge or jury issues a decision. And that right there, that kind of sucks if the judge or members of the jury play golf or tennis or play poker or whatever with your landlord. You know, they're not supposed to, but a lot of times stuff like that does play a big role. How to report bad landlords. Tenants can run into difficult landlords who refuse to take responsibility for the properties that they manage by fixing issues that exist within the apartment or home. If you are a tenant who has run into this issue, you should document all disputes with the landlord as they take place and take pictures of everything that is damaged due to no fault of your own. Put the dispute you have with the landlord in writing. Create a detailed letter to the landlord explaining what your tenant complaints are and document each complaint. Take pictures of whatever is broken and attach a copy to the landlord's letter. Ask the landlord to fix the problem and give him a set amount of time to fix it, let's say 30 days. Send the letter of complaint and copies of the pictures, never the original, via certified mail to ensure the landlord receives them. Call the landlord to confirm that he or she received the letter and ask when they will fix the problem. If the landlord says that they will fix it by a certain date and time, document the conversation in writing and send a copy of the documentation to the landlord. This documentation should be a simple letter stating, per our conversation, you stated that the broken item would be fixed by this date and time. Send the follow-up letter describing your conversation with the landlord via certified mail so the landlord cannot claim that it was not received. Place your complaint to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. File the complaint at their website. http okay, you get all that. www.hud or .hud.gov/complaints. There, simple way. www.hud, which is HUD.gov/complaints. Or by calling them at 1-800-333-4636. HUD will investigate your report and inform the landlord that the investigation is taking place. Report the landlord and his actions to the Better Business Bureau through their website. That you can just look up on Google because it will be different per your state. Tell the landlord that you have filed a complaint and inform them that you will follow up by suing if they do not follow the Fair Housing Act. File suit against your landlord at the Circuit County Courthouse level if the landlord does not fix the issues. This can be done by filing a petition in the Small Claims Court. Consult a lawyer if you decide to take action against your landlord for not fixing the problem. Now, on this part, how to respond to an eviction letter. An eviction letter generally is sent to you once the actual eviction process has begun. Before you receive the official eviction letter, you might have received some warning from your landlord. However, not all landlords will give warning of an eviction, even though this often is part of the lease contract you signed when first renting the property. Your response once you receive the eviction letter often will determine whether or not you actually are evicted. Read the eviction letter to find out why you are being evicted if you never received warning. Determine whether or not the reasons are justified. Go through your lease to see if your landlord is in violation. For example, if you have withheld rent because something on your property needs repaired that your lease states is the landlord's responsibility, then the landlord has violated the lease. This can be used in your favor. Write a formal letter responding to the eviction letter to bring with you to court. This formal letter should explain your side of the case. Gather any evidence you need to prove that you do not deserve to be evicted. For example, gather pictures of a repair not done or copies of any letters sent to the landlord regarding the repairs. Witnesses can also be very helpful in court. Go to your scheduled court date, bringing your response letter and all evidence with you, including your lease. When called on, give your side of the story to the judge. Do not be accusatory. State the facts, and if you do not deserve to be evicted, the judge hopefully will see that. Now, there is a lot more that goes on with breaking leases and stuff, but hopefully this video has given you some things to think about and hopefully a couple of resources that you can use if you are in need of getting your landlord to do what they should be doing in the first place. You can always Google more information. It's all over the web on how to deal with landlords. But, like I said, hopefully this video helps with a little bit. And don't be scared to call the housing authorities and all the other things that I have mentioned in this video, because sometimes we just gotta hold those landlords accountable for, for everything, because when the rent is due, they come knocking, but when you tell them to fix something, they want to ignore you. Stuff like that isn't right, and they should be held accountable. So, have a good day, everyone.